Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Shreya Tripathi, ESG consultant, Sustrack. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you all today to insightful webinar entitled ESG Present and Future: A Path to Sustainable Track. We are thrilled to have you join us for this important conversation where we will explore the evolving landscape of environmental, social, and governance practices and the critical role they play in shaping a sustainable future for businesses, communities, and the world at large. Today, we are here to delve into the present state of ESG, what has been achieved, where the gaps remain, and what businesses can do to stay ahead in the race towards sustainability. Most importantly, we will also take a forward looking approach, discussing the future of ESG and how emerging trends, regulations, and innovations will continue to shape the global sustainable development agenda. We have an incredible line of speakers with us today, each an expert in their own field. These speakers will share their knowledge and provide us valuable insights into the present scenario and what the future holds for ESG. Finally, I encourage everyone to participate actively throughout the session. Please feel free to ask questions, share your thoughts, and connect with us. You can ask your questions or share your messages in the question and answer session that you can see at the top of your screen. Once again, welcome to the webinar. Let's embark on this important conversation and take meaningful step towards a brighter, greener, and more sustainable tomorrow. So let's kickstart our webinar. The very first session would be building ethical businesses through ESG. We are honored to have Mr. Dinesh Agarwal with us today. Mr. Agarwal is currently serving as a principal consultant with Consortia Advisory, bringing over 40 years of rich and diverse experience in the fields of ESG, sustainability, business excellence, and CSR. His extensive career includes serving as the general manager and national head of CSR and sustainability at NTPC. Additionally, he has been a consulting advisor at CII, where he worked on advising CSR and sustainability initiatives across industries. So let's not delay any further and please join me in welcoming Mr. Dinesh Agarwal. Sir, please start the session.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Shreya, for giving me this opportunity, and more so on the important topic of the ethics. Ethics is the cornerstone of the ESG, but often the focus remains on the specific answers to the questions of the ESG and not on the ethics. Important thing is how we understand what is ethics. Generally, people feel that ethics is related to bribery and corruption, or ethics is related to compliance with the applicable laws. Many companies feel that if they are complying with all the applicable laws, they are an ethical company. If there is no bribery and corruption, they are an ethical company. Is it so? I take a very specific example, a case study, a very global case study. Uh, on a boat, a person is going with his mother, his wife, and daughter. On the way, boat is getting capsized. It's sinking. And that person can save only one person. Will he save his mother, or will he save his wife, or will he save his daughter? The ethical issue is not that whom he will save. The ethical issue is why, what is the logic for that? That decides that what are the ethical values of that person. The same thing is applicable to the company. What are the ethical values of a company? and that ethical values can be derived through the ESG. Many a times, company feel that whatever activity they are doing, they are implementing, it is okay if it is reasonably ethical and legal. Now you know that if a person is complying with the law 100%, it is said that a company cannot operate. But then when we talk of the ethics, this become a burning issue. Some people feel that if they are working in the interest of the company, then it is ethical to take any action. Some people feel that as long as the action is not discovered, unethical action is not discovered, then it is okay to implement or take that action. Some people feel that a person is not guilty till proven, a person is okay till proven guilty. So all these issues are there. In such a scenario, how the company operates on the ethical domain and address the issue of the ethics. As far as the ESG is concerned, I will give you some examples. Now, one hand is up. Should I keep giving the addressing the questions now, or should I do it at the end?
So we can address the questions at the end of your session.
Yeah. So Ranjit Kumar, you can keep a note of the question, and we can address it at the end.
Yes, Rajesh, you can share your question in the question and answer section at the top. Or once the session is over, we'll take up every question we can.
Yeah. So Dr. Shreya, I will need your help that you can compile all the questions and you can ask it at the end.
Sure, sir.
And then I will keep answering all the questions.
Sure, sir, sure.
Now, when we talk of the ethics, it's always beyond the legal compliance. That's a basic premise. On the environment side, how company becomes ethical. Let me give you a few examples. Now, you know everyone is buying the automobiles, the cars, and how many people pay attention to the paint. Some of the companies are using the water-based paint, which is 3 times costlier than the oil-based paint, where the problem of VOC, volatile organic compound, is there, which are harmful to the human health. But then some of the companies, knowing fully well that it is costlier, they are making their car more costly, they use the water-based paints. The companies are like Toyota, Volkswagen, and MG Motors. Does it mean that the demand for these companies are not there? Or should we call that these companies are promoting ethics through the ESG, through taking action on the environmental side? The same thing goes even in the apparel industry. Some of the companies which market their product use the green chemicals, which are less harmful to the environment, even though they are costlier, making their product costlier. That doesn't mean that these products become non-competitive. There are people who focus or who give equal importance to those companies which are more ethical and buy the product from those companies which are more ethical. And somewhere this becomes a sort of a USP for the company. I remember the company Hyundai, at the time when in India Euro 2 standard was prevalent, they brought out their car with Euro 3 standard. It makes their car more costly, but they used it as a USP that their cars are having latest technology and therefore are more competitive than the other cars which are following the older technology of Euro 2. So in a way, you look at it that how the companies are using the ESG to be more ethical and at the same time influence the buyers and the customers to focus on the ESG aspects. A similar thing happens in the social aspect also. I'm not going into the basics of the ESG that will be taken care of in the other sessions. But I'm just focusing how ESG is being used by the company for promoting ethics to make the company more ethical. Now you take the case of the Tata company. 100 years back, they started using the provident fund, giving the provident fund to the employees. It costed the company. But then, if you look at today, after 100 years, the reputation of Tata is unblemished on the aspect of ESG. They become one of the most respectable brand and respectable company. Only because they took all that initiative related to ESG, though the ESG word was not there. But then they focused on the social aspects, the employee benefit. There are other companies even today, they are very, very progressive and proactively they take actions which benefits the employee even beyond what is mandated by the law. You take the case of Mahindra, I mean, their benefits, employee benefits are remarkable. They give the very liberal paternity and maternity leave benefits, which no other company is giving. Does it make it less competitive? No. Certainly, it improves their image. At the same time, it improves their USP that okay, their products are good because they take care of their employees. Sim Similar thing happened even for the disability. I mean, we know that government has mandated that 3% of the reservation for the disabled people. And in general, I know all the companies say that we don't get the people who are suitable for the jobs. The disabled people are not adequately qualified or experienced to meet the requirement of the job in their company. That's a very common excuse. What company can do? I mean, the progressive companies, I was in NTPC and I example of NTPC. We went beyond that. We were not just fulfilling the requirement of the 3% of the quota by giving an advertisement for the recruitment of the disabled people. We identified the jobs which can be easily done by the disabled people. So it was a reverse engineering. First, identify the jobs where the disabled people can work, and then go for the advertisement and fill those vacancies only from the disabled people. So it becomes a sort of a positive discrimination. But you look at it from that point of view that, okay, we are not only fulfilling the legal requirement by saying that, okay, people are not available or just fulfilling it, but it becomes a sort of passion that no, through ESG, we want to fulfill our requirement. We become a responsible citizen, corporate citizen, and we want to improve the ethical aspect of the company. We want to become more ethical. Now, such examples you see really helps a company building an ethical company. And that creates a difference. You will find that, okay, how many companies are ethical in India? I mean, which company comes at the top of the mind? And there are companies, I mean, sort of a ratings for that. And in the rating, very few Indian companies are qualifying for those ratings. The companies like the Tata, like the Infosys, like the Wipro, they are only few companies which qualify for those ratings. This becomes important more so because nowadays ESG rating, it becomes a prerequisite for any company to get the raise the funds, particularly from the foreign market. I'm taking few examples that okay, on the social aspect, how a company can act or how the company will act in case of the dilemma, ethical dilemma. For example, it's again a basic sort of a case study that if a company vehicle is used for traveling and somehow in a hurry to reach the office for an urgent meeting, there is a violation. A traffic violation is there, and the vehicle is challaned. Who will pay that challan? Whether the company will pay that challan or the employee who is in a hurry will pay for the challan and tell the company that, okay, there were no challan. Because ultimately the employee will be questioned and the driver will be questioned that why did you violate the traffic law? And the driver will say that, okay, there was a pressure from the employees to reach for the meeting, which was very, very urgent and for the benefit of the company. So the traffic violation was done for the benefit of the company. So whether there are two questions for that, whether the employee should violate the traffic and work for the benefit of the company, or they should just don't show that, okay, there was a challan and he showed his efficiency that he could reach there in time for the meeting. There are other issues also similar to that sometimes people use the office equipments like the photocopying or other equipments. Now there is an issue that, okay, such things should not be done. As famously the case of the Chanakya, which said that who was using the two different lands, one for the personal use and one for the official use when a person was coming to him. His first question was whether you came for the personal visit or official. But then there will be also an issue that, okay, if the person is going out or taking leave for that work, now he is not able to contribute to the work of the office. So just by using the office equipment, he's able to save the time and work more for the office. These are all the ethical dilemmas and how the company should address those ethical dilemmas. Now, this can be done, I will say, through the transparency. And how the transparency comes in the picture? Through the stakeholder mapping. What are their concerns? What are their issues? Through the materiality assessment. Which issues are material to the company and to the stakeholder? Through the accountability and through the grievance redressal mechanism. All those issues are important. Then the issue comes that, okay, how the company become ethical, the processes for that. Again, I mean, if you talk of the ethics, even with reference to the ESG, whether there are systems and processes available to address those issues of the ethics while addressing the issue of the environment, social and governance. So these are all becomes the part of the governance issue. How governance can improve ethics? By having a policy. How many companies have an ethics policy? I rarely find, I have been doing the audit of the different companies, assessment of the different companies. I hardly find a company, very few companies, who have an ethics policy. Typically, they say that we comply with all the laws and we have the code of conduct for the employees, and that's ethics policy. But the code of conduct says the do's and don'ts for the employees. So that becomes a mandatory thing. Second, what are the systems and processes for ensuring that ethics is maintained? And then who is the owner of that policy and systems and processes? Many a times employees find that some unethical practice is going on, but they don't know how to report, to whom to report, whether they should report or not report. Because that also becomes an issue of the ethics, that how do you know that other person is unethical? Are you transgressing into the privacy of the other person? That becomes again an issue of the ethics. So these are the issues, these are the processes through which a company can address the issue of the ethics while addressing the issue of the ESG. And what are the basic issue and challenges for that? The most important challenge for that, I will say, is the tone at the top. I mean, if the CEO says that, okay, you be ethical, but as long as you are giving me the profits, as long as you are finishing the work, then the employee is confused. He feels that, okay, what is the priority? Whether ethics is the priority or the work is the priority. If the work is to be done, the result is to be given at any cost, then certainly for him, the ethics becomes the secondary issue. And maybe he will not tell the management that he is adopting an unethical practice. He may be doing it privately, but ultimately it impacts the company. Because when another person who is getting hurt because of this unethical practice, he doesn't see that an individual is hurting it. He looks at it that the company is hurting. And therefore, ethics is an issue which hurts a company more, even though it is the result of the individual's actions, individual employee's action. And therefore, the challenge is the tone at the top. And second issue is the culture of the company. There are companies which you know that, okay, uh, even a sort of a person, a known person who is very unethical, a government employee, and in every case he has been seeking the bribe to complete the work. Now, if a Tata person goes there, they will certainly think twice whether I should ask the bribe or not, because they know this company policy is not to give the bribe. And whereas there will be other companies where the person knows that, okay, I must ask for the bribe because they are known to give the bribe. So the culture of the organization is very important. The environmental and social practices in that environment, in that area. Now there are, I will say, the area, geographical area. Uh, some countries, for example, they are known that, okay, they adopt the unethical practice, bribery and corruption is very high. Until unless you follow that practice, you will not be able to run the business or get your work done. So that also becomes important, that ethics and compliance activity, whether there is a 0% tolerance or 5% tolerance or 10% tolerance, that becomes important. And here I would like to remind you what Einstein said at one time, that relatively applies to physics, not to ethics. So in the ethics, it is only a go or no go. You cannot say that, okay, you can be a 10% unethical, 90% ethical and call yourself an ethical person. The system of the governance, the policies, processes, systems are important. And then the initiative, that what the company initiatives are there to promote. I mean, do they extend it to their supply chain also? Do they have a very strong ethics policy? Some of the companies have a policy, for example, a gift policy, and where it's a zero tolerance. Even a box of the sweets on Diwali will be considered an unethical practice. And if someone brings it here, I mean, that has to be reported to the human resource department. And then they decide that it should be distributed to all the employees within that department or like that. Whereas in some companies, they say, okay, a gift item of up to 500 rupees is permissible. Even in the government, it says that a gift item of certain value is permissible. It's, I think, 5,000 rupees now. So, but again, I will say, it's a governance system of the organization. What is their policy? Where they say this becomes ethical and this particular activity becomes unethical. So these are some of the issues or things that matter to make how ESG can make a company more ethical. Now, the examples can go on. I'm not going into the theory of the ethics or theory of the ESG, that what activities are considered ethical or what are not considered unethical. And I'm just giving you a few of the examples that how a company can become more ethical through a better uh, policies, better systems pertaining to ESG. Uh, I would like to have a more of a discussions on that rather than just keep on giving the lectures on the website.
Sir, we have some questions. Shall I take the question now?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have one question from Sushmita. The question is, what are the challenges in implementing social factors of ESG, such as diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how do framework help guide companies in these areas?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes people feel that diversity is a issue. More so, I will say in the public sector company, if you look at the company board, even though it is mandated that certain percentage of the board members should be women, not all the companies are including the women on the board. Uh, it all depends on the tone at the top. Some of the companies I know, they have mandated that 20% of the employees must be women, a minimum of 20% of the employees. And that's not only sort of an IT company or a financial company, but also the industry, the hardcore industries like a steel plant or a process industry. Even in the shift, they say the women are allowed with proper precaution. So these things can be addressed only through the tone at the top. Uh, and there, I will not say that there are issues or problems in the NTPC when most of the companies were saying that, okay, they are not getting the proper qualified and experienced disabled persons to fulfill that requirement of the 3% quota. They went in a different way of identifying first what are the jobs where disabled people can be employed, and then fill up those vacancies with the disabled people. And that was highly successful. So it all depends on what processes the company wants, how far they are committed to the cause of that DEI, and then address that issue in a very systematic way. I hope that addresses your question. No, you are mute. You are on mute, Shreya.
Yes, sir. I think that was a wonderful answer. In case, Sushmita, you have any more query, you can type it in the question and answer box. Before I take up the next question, Mr. Pukhraj Jogi, he has raised his hand. So if you have any question or concern, can you please type it in the question and answer section? We'll take up the questions from there. And please don't type in the chat section. There is a separate section for question and answer. Please type your questions and concerns there. I'll take the second question now. Okay, Mr. Jogi, we'll take up your question. Before that, we have another question. So let me just ask that question and then we'll take up your concern as well. One of the question is, as I was reading, how can businesses, sir, please, how can businesses ensure that the ESG initiatives remain authentic and do not fall into the trap of greenwashing? Do I need to
Yeah.
repeat the question, sir?
No. That's
Okay.
interesting thing because nowadays many of the even MNCs in Europe and America are being accused of greenwashing because they exaggerate their claims and particularly more so about their future targets. So they will say that, okay, in 5 years, we will reduce the carbon footprint by 30%. And then after 5 years, people see that no, the footprint has not been reduced at all. Rather, it has been increased over a period of 5 years. And how the company can address that issue, it's important. Now, if you look at the recent government notification also, and that's a very good notification, more so on the consumer aspect side, but it's equally applicable on the ESG. That's what I wrote in my LinkedIn blog also. See, the company, when they are writing about any plan or writing anything in the ESG report, it should be backed by the data or it should be backed by a plan. Now, even if A company says that within 3 years, they will reduce their water footprint by 10% or 20%. What is their plan? No, the plan doesn't mean that, okay, they say that, okay, in fact, that is my plan, that in 3 years I will reduce it. Plan means what is the human resources they are providing for that? What is the financial resources they are providing for that? What is their process, which technology they have identified? What are the processes that are equipments they will change? I mean, there should be a clear action plan, time-bound action plan. And that should become a part of the ESG report. If that sort of action plan is there, the company will take action because even the environment person who is writing the ESG report will have the resources to achieve those actions, to implement those actions because the resources are available. The problem comes when the resources are not available. And the problem comes when the top management is not so much committed to the ESG, but they want to use the ESG for advertisement, for the marketing, as a marketing.
So before you leave, I would like to extend a thanks from all of us. It was a wonderful session. And the wonderful examples that you shared, starting from the legacies of Tata and the way you shared your personal experiences when you were working at NTPC, it was all very enlightening for all of us. The way you handle ethical dilemmas, the questions that you asked today about right from the employees to the policies at the governance level, I think it was all very, very interesting, and the whole audience would have definitely enjoyed your session. So thank you so much, sir. We really appreciate you to take out this time to educate and inspire all of us. We hope to keep on learning from the experiences from like you. Thank you so much, sir. It's really good to have you here. We hope to have
I
you
will
here.
say only one thing here that if
Sure.
people want to learn more from me, they can follow me on the LinkedIn. I keep posting all those issues and whatever dilemmas I face, I share my blogs on the LinkedIn.
Right, right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir.